everyone, welcome to this week's Fast Feminist recap of The Bachelorette. Now, where did we leave off? Well, Chad had just left, and he was whistling to himself in the woods. And then we pick up in this episode where he stumbles upon the house that the guys are staying at, and they're having a protein shake funeral for him, taking handfuls of his protein powder and is this something you do at funerals with ashes? I feel like it's not, but that's what they were doing. They have a conversation that, I'll be honest, I didn't really follow. I feel like it really didn't have much of a point. And then Chad leaves. The one thing that stood out for me from this interaction is Evan, who will not leave it alone. He goes up to Chad and he's like, "You owe me a shirt." And you're like, oh my god, you narrowly escaped being snapped in half. The first rose ceremony of the night happened, and the highlight of the elimination was Daniel, who you'll remember is the Canadian model. But what I like about Daniel is he's so terrible, but he's also extremely self-aware of how unlikable he is, and he just owns it. He says in his exit interview, he's like, well, obviously my personality is shit. And he also was like, oh, well, if this was based on looks alone, I would be fine. Insane amounts of respect to Daniel for that, because it brings me so much joy. They go to Uruguay, Jordan gets another one-on-one, and naturally because of that, everyone turns on Jordan because he's had 1,000 one-on-one dates at this point. While that's happening, our friend Vinny, who I just realized is on the show this week, and who also happens to be a barber, he set up a makeshift barber shop in the hotel, I guess. He's cutting everyone's hair, as barbers do, and the producers have left them some fun tabloids to read while they're at the salon, and there's stories about JoJo in there and her ex-boyfriend, and they're like, and obviously the guys believe it because none of them have ever seen a tabloid before. They work it out. I had some wine tonight while I was watching and lost track of this moment. I feel like I got the gist of it because it was teased so much in prior episodes that it's okay, so she's sad and then it works out and she's happy again. Great. Cool. Pass the rosé. The guys debrief about this interaction. I have no idea what they said, and I'll be honest about that because they were wearing sheet masks so incorrectly. They were just stuck to their forehead, and the bottom was just flopping around like an extra gill or a skin flap. I know it was on purpose. I know I'm being played by the producers of the show very hard in that moment, but I couldn't The group date this week was sandboarding. They get on a snowboard type thing and scoot down a sand hill. Derek gets the group date rose. And then we get to Robbie's one-on-one, the last one-on-one of the night. And it starts with JoJo talking to a dog and giving romantic advice from a dog. If I was the Bachelorette, 90% of my episodes would just be me getting advice from a dog that I found on the street. They wander around and try hats on and then jump off a cliff together. Very literary, very romantic. Feel like they've done that in every book, so pages coming to life. And then at the end of this date, Robbie says he loves her, which seems insane to me because this is basically their first date. I mean, if you feel it, go for it, I guess, but you've been hanging out for maybe 45 seconds max. It made me want to give Robbie a nickname and call him Swim Fan, like that movie about the girl who really likes this guy who swims, or she swims. Anyway, there's a swimming element and she's also a stalker. It's a very loosey-goosey concept. I'm gonna have to workshop that for next week. And then the rose ceremony happens and there are 3 eliminations, which seems really high for this late in the game. She sends home Evan. I'm so happy that Evan and Chad are both gone in 1 week. And I didn't think she was gonna keep Wells, but she kept Wells, who I really like. I think Wells and James T are my favorites that are still in the game. She also sends home Grant, which means that everyone that's left, I believe, on the show is white. Yeah, it's time for a Black Bachelor / Bachelorette. It's really time. And that was this week's episode. I'm going to be traveling next week for VidCon. So if you're there, say hello. And if you're not there, I'm very sorry. There is not going to be a Bachelorette recap next week. But what I'm going to do is watch the show anyway, duh, and then take that week and recap it along with the week after. So not next week, but the week after, I'm gonna have a double stuff, a big episode. If you like this video, share it with your Bachelorette loving friends, or click subscribe. I make a new one every single week, and I make a sketch video on Friday, so that's 2 videos every week. You can also find me on social media down below, and there's another video in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen if you would like to watch more from this series right now. That's all for now. Bye!